news and current affairs. Today's news is entitled Sudan Market Attack, Khartoum, Sudan. A deadly assault on an open-air market in Sudan has left at least 54 people dead, 158 others wounded, marking one of the worst attacks in the country's ongoing conflict. The attack, which took place in the central city of Wad Madani, was allegedly carried out by the Rapid Support Forces (RSF), a powerful paramilitary group that has been engaged in violent clashes with Sudanese government forces since April 2023. Eyewitnesses reported that the RSF launched a sudden offensive on the bustling market during peak hours, causing widespread panic among traders and civilians. According to residents, the fighters arrived in heavily armed vehicles and began firing indiscriminately. Explosions and heavy gunfire were reported, leaving bodies scattered across the marketplace. We just going about our business when suddenly we heard gunfire and saw people running for their lives, said a local vendor who managed to escape. Many people were shot without any warning. It was chaos. Medical sources from local hospitals confirmed that the number of casualties is expected to rise, as many victims remain in critical condition. Emergency response teams and humanitarian organizations have been struggling to provide medical aid due to ongoing security threats in the region. The Sudanese government condemned the attack, calling it a barbaric act of violence against innocent civilians. In a statement, Sudan's transitional government vowed to launch an immediate investigation and hold those responsible accountable. This brutal attack on innocent people is unacceptable, said Sudanese Prime Minister Osman Hussein. We will not allow impunity for those who commit such heinous crimes against our citizens. The United Nations and the African Union have also condemned the violence, urging all parties involved in the Sudanese conflict to adhere to international humanitarian laws. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed deep concern over the escalating violence and called for an immediate ceasefire to prevent further civilian casualties. The senseless violence in Sudan must stop. The international community must stand together to protect innocent lives, restore stability to the country, Guterres said. Since April 2023, Sudan has been engulfed in a deadly conflict between the RSF and the Sudanese Armed Forces (SAF). What initially began as a political power struggle between Sudan's military leaders has escalated into a full-blown civil war, leading to widespread displacement, human rights violations, and a worsening humanitarian crisis. Human rights organizations have documented numerous atrocities, including mass killings, sexual violence, and forced displacement committed by both sides. The attack on the Wad Madani market is the latest in a series of assaults targeting civilian areas, further exacerbating the suffering of the Sudanese people. International human rights organizations are urging immediate intervention to prevent further bloodshed. Amnesty International called on world leaders to impose sanctions on those responsible for war crimes and to increase humanitarian aid to affected regions. The situation in Sudan is deteriorating rapidly, and civilians are paying the ultimate price, said Agnes Callamard, Secretary General of Amnesty International. The world cannot turn a blind eye to these atrocities. Immediate action is needed to hold perpetrators accountable and to ensure the protection of civilians. Meanwhile, peace talks mediated by the African Union and regional leaders have made little progress, as both the RSF and SAF continue to engage in violent clashes. Calls for a ceasefire have largely been ignored, with both sides blaming each other for escalating tensions. The ongoing violence has led to a severe humanitarian crisis, with over 5 million people displaced and millions more facing food and medical shortages. Refugees continue to flee to neighboring countries, straining regional stability and resources. Aid organizations are struggling to provide relief due to security concerns and restrictions imposed by warring factions. The UN has warned that if the conflict continues, Sudan could face one of the worst humanitarian disasters in recent history. Despite the grim situation, international mediators are pushing for renewed diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the conflict. Sudanese citizens caught in the crossfire continue to demand peace, security, and accountability for those responsible for war crimes. As the world watches the developments in Sudan, the question remains, will global pressure be enough to bring an end to the violence? the country spiral further into conflict and chaos. I hope you are being updated. Don't forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned.